Hello, welcome to another video by Indicator Vault. My name is Ronald, and in this video we're going to go over 3 of the best trend indicators on Tradingview. And of course, I'm sure you're familiar with the phrase, the trend is your friend, and you always want to be trading with the trend, which increases the probability that you're on the right side of the market. And so these are some of the 3 best ways to identify that, or at least use the trend as part of your trading. Now, the first one I'm going to use isn't necessarily an indicator, as it is just an object you can put on your chart. But it's one of my favorites. I have used these many times, and it's pitchforks. So if you come over here to the left side, you'll find it here. It's the 3rd one. And of course, there's a whole other video to use or to find as far as how to use pitchforks. I'm not going to get into that here. And this particular pitchfork, I've kind of customized the settings myself. But the thing with pitchforks, if you find the right angle, and there's different ways to do that, the price to play in these channels can be extremely precise and helpful. As we can see just here on the 4-hour, we can see the relevance and the power some of these are holding. As we can see, price just comes, just touches, moves away, touches perfectly this one, this down, comes back in, never closes below this one. And then what does it do next time it touches it? Same thing. It does wick below it, never closes below this one, comes back up. And we can see in between here for a long while, stays in this channel, just bounces around, kind of giving us a sign it's going to have a breakout one way or the other. And even before here, this one never closes below, wicks down into this channel. So these are, in a sense, just multiple trend lines within price. And as another example, you could anchor it from this low to this high. Now that makes it pretty tiny, but if you go down into the 15-minute, we can see some of the precision that this angle is holding. I mean, look at this perfect touch to this downtrend. You can see it stays in this channel for a little bit. Perfect touch here before it breaks up again above it. Bounces around in this channel some. Perfect touch here, just a pip below it. And again, so I love pitchforks if you can find the right angle. And this particular one is the settings are just in increments of 0.25. You can find some great precision that price will play off of with a pitchfork if you can find, anchor it on the right points. And of course, you always want to have it pointing in the direction of the trend. In a downtrend, you want this pointing down, not the other way around. It's going to kind of get all wacky and not as precise as you would like it to be. Now, for the second one I'm going to show is probably the most common ways to view a trending market, and that is moving average crosses. And, I know it's extremely common, but it can be so helpful and useful as far as just knowing when to be looking for buys or sells. And so there's different numbers as far as the lengths of the moving averages you can use. I've seen some that are 9 and 18, 50 and 100. For this example, these are exponential moving averages, and this is 20 and 40. And, it's just a simple of the lower, in a downtrend, you want the lower one below the higher one. So in this example, the 20 is below the 40. and vice versa. In an uptrend, you want it the opposite. You want the 20 above the 40. And so it is basically acting as a, in this example, as we see it downtrending, as this dynamic moving resistance, pushing price down. And it's just a classic, very clear way to tell, which way should you be viewing the market. And, there's even ways to view the separation, as we see at first with this big impulse down here on the daily chart. And we see a cross right here. So this should be indicating, okay, let's be looking for sells. As long as the 20 is still staying below it and has a good separation between the two, let's look for sells. And so this very next touch of the supply right here, we can see the supply zone formed, pokes above it with the MA still with some separation. And what do we see? Move down initially, and then again, strong impulse down once more. Price comes back up into this gap. MAs are still, where they need to be, and price never closes above the 40. If it did, maybe we could start to see some signs, or maybe, wait for some consolidation and see if it wanted to shoot up. Of course, it doesn't. Comes back down again, respects the gap, and continues the downtrend, as we can see. And so there's different ways, like I said, to use these moving averages with different numbers. And, even some, 19 and 38, not necessarily the, clean numbers like 20, 40, 50, 100, but some have used that. And you can even use just simple moving averages. You don't have to necessarily use the exponential ones for your crosses. And this is just, kind of some training wheels to just tell where you should be looking for the trend to continue and exactly where the market is wanting to go. So, in this case, you wouldn't be looking for buys for as long as the 20 is below the 40. Now, of course, my favorite is the trend trading cloud. And this is not just a simple way to tell the trend, which it is, but it has so much more to offer than just that. Obviously, we can see it gives great buy and sell signals, but we also have, as we can see, kind of these upper and lower bands where price is going to play off of, and we can reasonably expect it to stay in this channel. So it's almost like a combination of the pitchforks and the moving average, if you will, as far as playing inside the channels and even telling you where the trend is. So as we see, with the red cloud and the blue cloud, each representing, uptrends, buy trends, where to look for your buy and sell signals. And then we've got the cloud signal line below here. If you want to even just hide this will represent where the signals are forming. And so if you see it go blue above the green line, that is coordinating with the sell signal. And then, of course, vice versa with the red line below the green line. And, just as an example here, I've marked out the bottom of this supply zone here, which is another great thing to use with here. I look for, if you see the cloud change, I look for the closest what would be supply or demand zone. And usually those are going to have, very powerful moves away. They're going to be valid supply or demand zones. So as we can see here, this series of up candles gets engulfed with this red candle, to me validating this as a supply zone. And so with the cloud now changing to red, We're looking for sells. What does it do? Just barely comes into it, doesn't even close above it, and got a long downtrend before it starts to move up again. So this is the trend trading cloud. Just, great to incorporate as far as, especially for higher time frame trends. It works on the lower time frames as well. You can mark out this zone on the 4-hour and easily go into, the 30-minute. We can even do that now. Let's see what it gives us. See, price comes into the zone, never closes above it, and very soon gives another sell signal. And so ride it on down. We've got the higher time frame trend in our favor, and just a great trade here. Even if you didn't get into it here, if you want to wait for the lower time frame confirmation, it gives it soon after. And as we can see, as soon as it gives the sell signal, it never goes above it at all. Barely pokes into this supply zone, which just, another example of what I just pointed out. The supply zone right before the changing of the cloud is going to be very powerful. Barely pokes into it and then continues some more downward movement. And so very versatile. It's not really a one-dimensional thing like the pitchforks or the moving average crosses were. Those are great, but they don't necessarily offer more than just one insight necessarily. This here can be used in so many different ways as far as finding zones, finding these bands on the upper and lower side that typically you're going to see price, play into and not really reject. And you've also got this cloud signal line if you wanted to kind of declutter this for the time being and watch just this line as well for the buy and sell signals. So this one is like I said, the trend trading cloud by Indicator Vault. So I hope this video was helpful, and until next time, best of luck trading.